the fourth time.
And it's Dalton for the fifth time. And this is logging into UKG Chicago Users Production.
The HCM podcast by HCM admins for HCM admins. What?
And today we're going to go ahead and dive into the wonderful world of importing and exporting from your UKG Pro environment, getting that hopefully clean data into your system and back out again. And as Andy would like to say, in bulk.
And before you do that, make sure you have storage on your computer, or else you won't be able to save the file like me.
Can y'all tell why this is our fourth time through?
Oh, we should tell them because, as HCM admins, sometimes our database, our computers get a little bit overburdened with data, and it doesn't allow us to save things. And so, oopsies, I could not even record. But guess what? Dalton came through in the clutch. Ching.
Dalton keeps his computer clean.
Yeah. And what's the moral of the story here?
Clean your computer?
The moral of the story is that if you have all that data and you have a spot to upload it, like your UKG Pro system, you can upload it to their servers and you don't have to keep it on your desktop.
Nice segue. I love that. So Let's talk about exporting and importing. So let's start with a little bit of an overview. So if you're a UKG user, long-term or new to the family, there are a multitude of ways that you can get data in and out of UKG. We're not going to go in depth on every single way. We're going to talk about some of the most common ways. We might touch base on some of the others, but we're going to spend time, I believe, mostly on tools that are going to be easy to use and most customers are going to be able to have access to without having to engage other team members such as IT or external third parties. There are a multitude of ways, as I said. So whether it's an API, which normally, unless you've got skill set to build an API and manage it, you're going to probably not be the first option that you go. There's also other tools within UKG, such as Informatica Cloud, which is a version of kind of API and things that you can do in building data warehouse. There's also, if you're a benefits person, you've got UltiPro Carrier Network, which is kind of the back office and getting data to your benefits, probably the most common way that you use the carrier network. There's also reports exports, which is essentially dropping a file, mostly a BI file, to be an SFTP server. But then there's also some really fun ways. There's mass updates, and there's also the data import tool, which are probably the most easy, friendly tools that you can use. And whether you're importing data according to the employee record or even some of your business or your business fields, those to me are probably the most, I would turn over to somebody who needs an access. Now there's going to be some caveats we'll talk about, but those are the most.
And one of the things that I do want to touch on today is, although it's technically not an export, another way would be giving a third party access to scrape data, such as if you are using the recruiting module and posting things to an external job board. It's another very quick, easy way that a lot of other groups that you might partner with can get access to that data without having to go through an API or an SFTP. But we'll go ahead and touch on that when we get to it.
So talk a little bit about that while you talked about the data scraping.
Yeah, sure.
Like, where would you talked about recruiting and that being kind of one of the places. If somebody was interested in maybe giving somebody access, what would they do?
So we usually use that, like I said, when it comes to our external job boards. It doesn't work with our internal because, we don't want folks to have access to that. But anything that we're already posting externally to our career site, any of those large organizations that you might partner with to recruit, whether it's Career Builder, ZipRecruiter, organizations like that, if you have an agreement with them, you can just give them that URL, and most of them already have tools that will go to that URL, look through your website, scrape all the data off of it, and then connect all the spots that you can apply to their website and sort of rebuild that out. It's very little work on your end. It's a great way to go ahead and build out where people can apply for your organization. And while it's technically not an export per se, it is a great way to go ahead and still get that data from your system to another system, but still let it feed back through.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a costly or timely, like, have you, what's been your experience? Has that been a costly tool to use? Do you recommend it in certain situations and not in others?
Yeah, for the most part, it hasn't really been anything time consuming or costly on our end. Most of the external recruiting websites that we work with already have the technology built, and once you give them the URL, they take it from there. It's required almost nothing else on our end. So, like I said, although it technically isn't an export, it is still a way to get that data from your system to another party, and with the minimal amount of work on your end. But I wouldn't use that for things that are really part of your core UKG Pro, because you don't want to give another company access to scrape, your employees' like private data. Just the job postings where it's like, hey, we're looking for a team leader, and here's the job description. Like stuff that is not a problem if that goes out to the world.
I like it.
So which one do we want to start with? Do we want to do imports or exports?
I have a soft spot for the import tools personally, so if no one has any preferences,
let's start with imports and then we'll come back to exports, because I always think that there's so many ways you can go, but let's start with importing data, because I think that's the most important one. Maybe not the important one, but
I know we'll be talking a lot more in generalities here, because it would be nice to actually show you and walk you through some of this information, but there's a lot of great tools available in the community for you to reference back to if you're new to this, or if you just need a nice refresher. There's all great training programs available in Ulti University as well. That'll help you in building out when it comes to importing data into your system there. To be honest, I'm one of those individuals that I kind of like to set it and forget it, meaning once I build out an import tool and I start using it every now and then, after a while, you kind of lose that muscle memory if you're not constantly building different templates in the import tool. So that's why I at least wanted to point out first and foremost that there's some great tools that are out there to help assist you in building out the mapping for your imports, no matter what you're looking to bring into the system.
And just to comment on that, what Andy's mentioning about the mapping there, essentially is something where you can go ahead and take something like a CSV file with whatever columns you need. And as you're building that mapping, you're saying, hey, I am taking this CSV file and I want to take the data from column A, and that is going to be my unique identifier, whether it's my social, my employee ID, and then column B might be my effective date. So that's going to fill here. And you're just filling that out and saying what goes to from each column to the part of the system. And then once you map that once, you can just go ahead and take that CSV, that Excel, whatever file you're using. So, if you're really fancy and want to go TXT file, and then just upload that into the system. It's a great way to go ahead and do, job changes, pay changes, major updates to deduction and benefits. Because you already have that information, you've already reviewed it in that Excel sheet. You don't need to recode it into the system. And because it has that verification tool where you can go ahead, or sorry, not verification, validation, that's the word. Turn that validation on, run it through first. It will tell you any errors or warnings that are in that file. You can fix anything you need before it goes live. And then once you fix it, run it through again. Once you get no errors, turn validation off and you're done. Run it through and it saves so much time.
It does. Whoop, there it is.
I'm curious.
Whoop, there it is.
I sure did.
I'm curious just because I laid out a couple things that our company uses that for. I'm curious to hear, what do you guys use the import tool for most?
Import tool is heavily used in payroll, on a payroll, especially from a standpoint of for people who use pending pay, but maybe it's too much for pending pay. Benefit stuff I'll see, they're trying to do some changeovers, even things like PTO plans or rate changes are a big one during merit time and things of that nature, or you're doing not even just merit, Because pre having the compensation module, it was huge because we had it on spreadsheets. We used it a lot. But even now, when we're talking about adjustments to the job and they're doing equity or market adjustments or doing a wave or, pay scales, and that's used a lot. And then also for our global team, we're not integrated with their in-country payroll or HR system. So if it's small changes for the employee record, they manage it, but it's dual keying. So if they have to make mass changes, we use the import tool to do that as well. And even now, I just used it. We did our workforce management implementation. Like instead of going to every single person's record and flipping off UTA, we wanted to flip on workforce management. We use that to toggle just to no instead of to yes. Right. So we use even little things like that because otherwise you're going to however many people's record and going in and just toggling off yes, yes, no, 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 no. And the other one is during EEO we're doing our EEO reporting, people still can come in and put not identified. Yep. And we're affirmative action in some of our companies. So we have to report that and they have to go through this process. Same. And instead of making every employee go in and do it themselves, they usually have them do it a document and we fill it out. So we find different ways to use it, but it gets used weekly. I always see there's lots of imports, lots of things, but majority of the people that are using it weekly are probably payroll for different imports and things that they're using.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I do see a lot from the benefits and the payroll side, specifically from a benefits side for deferred comp as well. Anybody doing changes in their 401k percentages or even loan updates, I do see that quite a bit. And then we just went through a massive org level restructure. So rather than going in and keying in each one of those directly to the employee record, just create a simple template, make sure everything looks good on that CSV file, and then upload it in, and like I said before, whoop, there it is. Thought you knew.
Because you guys have both mentioned the payroll use of it, I want to give a shout out to our IT team, who has one set up specifically for work phone numbers, because we have our own phone system that gets managed through, where all that data is sort of housed, and then they can just run an export from there, take that export and just upload it straight into UKG so that anyone who looks in there can see, oh, hey, this is Dalton's work phone number and I need to call him. That way we don't have to go ahead and give people login to that IT, phone system. They can just use the login access that they already have. And it's something so tiny, but it's something that's so nice.
Aside from the actual import tool itself, obviously you could do a mass update if there's a supervisor change or a job and salary change. But is there an easier way of doing that? What I'm referring to is the mass update.
Mass updates. I was like, I think you're referring to mass updates. Now, I have my druthers about mass updates. I like mass updates, but depends on the size. Because having to select all the different people is but I do find value in it. And I do want to say that. So let's point out all the ways, because I think it depends on the size of the import that you're doing. But when it comes to salary changes, even or supervisor changes, which is the big one, and you're moving a group of people, you're doing a reorg, but let's just say it's just a manager to manager reorg, like we're just moving people around. I think it's a fantastic tool. It's an easy, and it's also one that's import. There is some opportunity for you to mess something up there. If you don't know how to actually build it, manage it, import it, you can import a lot of data on people's records that's not meant to be there, things of that nature. But with mass updates, you can't really get it wrong. You select the people that you want to mass update, you select the people that you want to move them to, especially if you're looking at the manager portion of it. You put a date and a reason, and that's over and done with. You can't even keep doing it like a couple times, whereas an import, I could run 3 or 4 imports and now I've got 4 records for the same data, but slightly different. And guys, let's raise our hand. I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna be honest. There's been times that I've been running fast and I'm trying to do an import and some records failed and that all went and I forgot to just peel off and I'm like, crap. Yep. And now I've imported and I'm like, UKG, can you please like delete without me having to go into every record and remove these rows? But I think I really, that's the one that if I'm training an HR person that doesn't have import tools, I automatically train them on how to use the mass update features. Specifically, we have unions and at times you have to do layoffs and then that means people are moving around and managerial relationships move around and they may forget because unfortunately that's usually an afterthought, which in my mind, I wish it was more of a forethought because it's an important piece. But they forget, but then they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do all these change forms. I'm like, actually, you know, you can do this one big move instead of going into all of these people's records.
And I want to just give a quick shout out to functionality that I think came out sometime last year, maybe 2 years ago, but I think sometime last year. If you're going ahead and terminating someone who has direct reports and you're going through that termination workflow, there's an option right there to go ahead and update who they report to right in the workflow. So just a little shout out there. You know, that doesn't mean don't use the mass update tool, but there is another option there that hopefully can catch it as you're processing terminations.
They've definitely made some good.
Yes.
They've made quite a bit of improvements lately, which is nice, right? I do want to talk a little bit about the things that people don't use often. So you talked a little about imports. What other kind of ways can we get data into the system?
Can I just give one more plug for mass updates?
Oh, go for it. Mass update plug.
I love it because we do have a population where we have managers that have a significant amount of employees that report to them. So I use it quite a bit. But as we've grown as an organization, we've also experienced times, and I'm sure some of our listeners have as well, where if either you're converting a segment of your population or in Dalton's case, if you want to do it on the actual termination screen and you've got one supervisor that, I'm just going to throw it out there, has 100 people to it, and you want 20 people to go to one manager, 20 people to go to another, so on and so forth, you'd actually have to run it multiple different times. You can't just do one mass update and check all those boxes all at once. You will have to break and segment it. I wish that the mass update tool allowed you to segment out when doing that, but unfortunately, put that in the ideas column and vote on it.
Vote. I think that would be nice. I think the other tools is we talk about, like, we're talking about importing. So believe it or not, you can still import via API. It's not as common. So if you're integrating with, let's say, I like to think recruiting or even, global, because a lot of people don't use UKG's recruiting, but they want some of the data. They want the information that's coming over. I think that's an important factor to know, that there are tools within UKG that it doesn't have to be your core system of record for everything if that's not your business's strategy. And you can still get data in the system. Now, the import tool doesn't allow you to schedule. So if you have the time when you're setting aside, you've got those templates, although it's a very nice feature, but they're also coming out with webhooks, and they've got an API where you can kind of connect to other providers. You can schedule bringing in data, you can schedule how that information's coming in, which is nice. Kind of that's the next phase of, we have the data, we know we need to get it into certain places from other places, whether it's on a spreadsheet or another system, but right now, we don't have a team or the time to build out something. But I think UKG is kind of even expanding with some of their tools where you can more easily bring in data and export data on a cadence, because sometimes that's just necessary. A lot of what we're talking about isn't a regular day-to-day function. It's needed for a purpose, but there is a way to use the tool that you can say, hey, on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, even a daily basis, we need to pull this in on this record, maybe from another system, whether it's homegrown or another cloud-based application. And the tools are able to do that from an import standpoint, and even store that data. Now, the other thing I would like to point out is make sure where you're putting data in, the system allows you to put data there, because not every place in UKG can you import data into. Some of their pages are static and they are what they are, but the more you dig into using those tools, the more you'll start to understand where you can. My opinion, guys, and you tell me if you feel differently. I think payroll is probably the most flexible with where you can put data. I see a lot of data coming in from a payroll perspective, but it's pretty much payroll, it's deductions, earnings, so on and so forth. There are some pages within the core record that you can't modify, but there are places
that I wish you could, but
I wish you could. I think we all do. Without it being a customization, I think we can put it out there. I'm sure you could put an SR in and get a customization but with it as is, you may or may not be able to import data to that respective page. So things to keep in mind, that if there is data that's in another system and you love to have it stored, I think like Phil said, what they're doing with IT, some of the things we've done, use other company info, use other personal info, find out which pages under platform config have the ability to be customized, and put in extra fields. And then maybe that's where you could possibly bring in that data. So lots of opportunities, right?
Well, and Veronica, because you'd mentioned API and you'd said how useful of a tool it is, I just want to put out there, like, really the toolkit that people can start with is if you go to developer.ukg.com, that is their API hub for most things. You can go ahead and see which API bundles you have and which pages you can both get data from and which pages you can push data into. Most of us are going to need a little bit of that hand-holding and help to really dive into API, especially if it's your first time. But it's that developer.ukg.com is a great place to start, because you can at least get a sense of, hey, where can I pull from? Where can I push to? And really just at least start wrapping your mind around that and think of different possibilities that you might want to explore.
For APIs, question for the two of you, how are you using those in your organizations?
So we just, in my former organization, they were heavily used. Here in my current organization, we're just now tapping into it, and we're pushing data out to Mosaic from a reporting standpoint. We use reports as a service more, and I'll talk a little bit my opinion on why one over the other. But now we're really stepping into APIs. The thing to keep in mind about an API, and the reason our company hasn't really delved into it, because the way we're structured is it's a parent company with 4 sub companies, but we have about 60 FEINs, right? But each company has their own IT person. They have their own HRIS team. So the way that APIs are working, you go to the master company. So if you give access, they would have everybody's access. So there's some challenges unless you've got a middleware or some, where the data comes out of UKG and into that middleware, and then you put security on the middleware. Connecting directly, we don't have one standard IT team that has access to every single person's data. And I do, but I don't want to own it. Because
that's
API,
a lot to own.
It's a job. Like, you're managing all of the integrations and connections that are going to the respective systems. And as you both know, even ones that you have, when they break, you got to go work through the challenges of where did they break and how do we get them back on together. And so our team is kind of not, but I will say we're stepping into it more and really just trying to say, do we trust? Is there a document or is there some sort of authority assigning? We could say that we're going to give these people access knowing what they know, and we're going to put some ownership, but also kind of some expectation that if you misuse data or you have more access, because we don't want to hinder anybody, because that's the key to the kingdom, right? And you don't have to give them everything, as you know, and I don't know how many people know about this, but APIs, as Dalton said, are built in tables. So you could say, I just want to give the recruiting table. I just want to give the job table. I just want to give X table. It's not I give every single piece of data on an employee record across the whole org. You can carve out what specifically is going out of the system, which may give us a benefit, to be honest, to maybe start small, right? We're going to start with this middleware just being recruiting data, if you will, or whatever, or something of that nature that's maybe low-hanging fruit, and then go from there. So I think that we're going to be making some changes, but we've been leaning towards reports as a service more, because you can be more specific with what you do there and what goes out.
That's very true, and I think an exercise in APIs it's an exercise in trust. It's what tables are you going to be pulling from? What's the data going to be used for? And there's not necessarily to make you nervous at night. I'm not saying that, but there's just a certain level of trust that certainly comes with APIs, and we're just scratching the surface, similar to you, Veronica, on our APIs. Mostly just being used, and I think probably the hottest topic with APIs, or the most used, I should say, would be IT and their Active Directories.
That's exactly right.
So
we started to utilize ours within the last year to essentially create like a data lake or a data warehouse externally that we currently only have UKG data in, but we're looking to start pulling IT data, finance data. We're a community mental health organization, so we want to go ahead and take stuff out of our clinical note-taking app and find a way to slowly connect that to Power BI so that we can recruit off of data from different parts of the organization, from different systems, in one reporting dashboard. So that's currently a large undertaking that we're going through. But again, it's utilizing those APIs to use that as a pipeline to get data from our different systems into a centralized area that we can then go ahead and build off of.
You sound like we're in the same journey, and I wish I was, working with you, because that's a fun journey, right? When you're building that data warehouse, data lake, whatever you call it, and you're really trying to glean information from multiple aspects, because that's what our Mosaic journey is, right? We were disparate across our visualization tools, and we hadn't landed on one. We did some very specific things, as we talked about in our last episode, around performance management that we do like. And this is an area where we want to be alike, right? Or at least we want to have some alikeness, and then you have some things that are different, or allow your business to be different. Because as we know, data from an HR perspective, really, when you have a large company, especially the way we're structured, if I work at company A, Andrew works at company B, and Dalton works at company C, but we're all the same role, and maybe my spouse moves and I want to move, or there's an opportunity that opens up at another company, but yet we're not apples to apples. Let's say headcount's not treated the same. What's considered a promotion is not the same. It makes all of our lives like, so what do you do over there? Like, I was promoted, but you weren't. This was a what? Like, terminations aren't the same, or whatever the case, or we're not calculating. So this was an opportunity, and data pushing out of our system allowed us to do that, because they got to see, oh, well, wait a minute, we have some opportunity to really kind of look at that in API. And so we use a combination. I don't know about you guys. We've used a combination of APIs and of reports as a service. So there's some tables that we're sending directly, and it's going over to Mosaic from an API. And then there's some customized reports, because UKG doesn't have all the stuff. Like all the recruiting is not an API yet. So I had to build a custom report for recruiting data to go out, and I had to build a custom succession report data for that to go out. But for everything else, we were able to connect via API. So we're kind of using a married approach with reports as a service along with APIs.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that like sort of married approach to it, because yes, that developer hub that we talked about earlier, it has most of the APIs that UKG has. There are a couple that you still need to go to UKG directly to get access to. I know recruiting and onboarding are two of them. But if there's information that you need that's not there, UKG has the tools so that you can either go into People Analytics and build a report and then push it out as an API, or you can go ahead and build that report and then use it as a report as a service and push it out as an SFTP. So there's a number of different ways to get the data, and you might need to go ahead and marry some of those ways to get all the data you need.
Do we want to touch on reports as a service?
Yeah.
I think we should. It's a very common way,
right.
and it's one of those where, so here's here's my high level pitch about reports as a service. The person that's doing the reports as a service, there's a few things. You do need to engage UKG via an SR, and there is a cost associated with it. So if you're going to do reports as a service, you have to put in a request to UKG so that they can essentially behind the scenes connect your report to the SFTP server that you're sending the data to. The most important piece is the person building it should know how to build a BI report, because that's what it comes from. It's a BI report. It's basically compiling data that you want to be sent out on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual, whatever the cadence basis is.
Or if you're a little neurotic like us, every 30 minutes for some of our SFTPs.
Well, if you're neurotic like Dalton, every 30 minutes. But essentially, you build a report in BI, and then on reports as a service, you set up the report to find the report based on the user's credentials that built it or someone else's credentials. 90% of what you do is coming from the user, because that's why you're the person building it. But if you're a person with lower level access and you're hoping to give broader access, you want to think about somebody with broader access. And then essentially, once you build the report, you connect the report on the reports as a service.
Yep.
And UKG does some auto magic behind the scenes. And that report goes out to wherever you're sending it on a regular basis. Now, this is my caveat to that. Our organization is moving towards APIs because reports as a service can stop running. And it's difficult at times to back into how it stopped running. And so if the system by chance, goes offline, or there's an issue, or there's a server issue, or you move the report, you rename the report, any of those things happen, you lose access, you get in a new role, like you fill in the blank, that report will stop running or run as it's intended to run. So there's two ways. It could stop altogether, or it could run but be missing data, give more data based on the person that its access is, because it's intended to run. And especially if you move it, if you even put a space, an S, you reversion it, you think, oh, I want to clean this up, or somebody comes behind you, this folder doesn't make sense anymore. So a few things that I recommend is when I'm doing reports as a service or any kind of integrations, I have a folder called integrations. That is an intent that do not touch anything that's in this folder. And most of the people that have access are the people who build the integration. So it's usually me and one other person, so that we know that anything in this folder cannot be modified unless you're doing a couple extra steps. Those are the things to keep in mind, because if you do that, your reports as a service. But I personally think for the cost, the effort to get it stood up, I think that it's a viable option, especially if you don't have support to build out APIs and getting data out of the system. You don't want to run reports, and it's secure. I think that's the other thing, right? You don't have to worry about password protecting it if you're sending it somewhere.
And it's nice because I feel like all of us, and hopefully anyone who would be using reports as a service, is using that BI report building tool pretty regularly and should be very familiar with it. So you know what you're building, you can see exactly what's being pushed out. And one of the nice things that we found is that, hey, we have a, org level 3 that we have added that we now need to go over on that report. You know where that report is in your BI folders. You can go in there, you can edit the filter. Again, don't change the name, don't change where it's located, but go ahead and be like, hey, I'm updating the filter to now add this additional org level 3 code. And now all of a sudden that's it's done. That update it's live. You don't have to go ahead and take forever to really try to figure out what it is, or, reaching out. If you've had a completely different organization build it, you don't have to reach out and say, hey, can you come in here and revamp this whole thing? It really is a quick update, but it is exact. So, like Veronica said, don't blow on it.
Just don't.
Yeah, and for those that are listening that would be interested in a service like this, as Veronica said, you will need to partner with UKG via an SR to be able to make that connectors happen. and UKG is backlogged when it comes to stuff like that. So I wouldn't make sure that you give yourself and this project quite a bit of leeway from start to finish, so you can see that through and get a good partnership and get a good experience out of building this out for yourself.
I think the other thing, and we won't touch too much on it, but some of the ways we mentioned are probably, I would say, the most common. There are other little nuances within the system. I always like to say, like, our Informatica Cloud is one of those. You do have to have your own login for that. So if you have a login, if you don't, you just you email, you need your focal contact within your company, and they'd have to go in and provide you access through the community. The other way that people don't utilize a lot is BI has events, not Event Studio, but jobs and URLs. Like, you can do all kinds of things in BI. That's another one. Use IBM Cognos. So if you're looking to send out data via a report and you don't want to pay UKG and you just want to schedule it, those things are still there. Yeah. We're just giving you what we think. And I always like to not just think about the most common and the ways that we like, but also the most secure, if I'm being honest. I think data security is of the utmost right now. And reports as a service is very secure. It's usually sent via SFTP. API is even more secure. I think there's some less failure points with API, in my opinion, than with reports as a service and things of that nature, which is the SFTP. So there's so many different ways that you can utilize these tools. And I think that I'm going to say it's more like beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Like, depending on where your skill set is, you can kind of choose your own adventure, if you will, and then kind of grow as you go. Like, learn as you learn more and get more involved. You may never want to be an API company because you don't have the team or the skill set or the resources, but you still can import and export data without having that be a way to do it. And I do like that
Agreed.
We don't have to always be involved. The three of us and our teams can kind of be self-sufficient, right? Without us having to jump in all the time. Awesome.
So because you had mentioned it earlier, I do want to make sure that we circle back around and at least touch on the UKG carrier network. Just to be like, hey, what is it if you haven't heard of it? Who's using it? And then a small update on it, I guess. So I guess I'll start with, we use it to go ahead and communicate some of our benefits information from UKG to our benefits vendors. Do you guys use that, the UCN service, or?
That's what we do. Yep, we do. And that's pretty much what we use it for.
Pretty much the same.
I think we use also, wait a minute, I don't want to lie to you. I think we do it for new hire reporting as well.
Okay.
There's certain other little nuances that you can, it's very specific. I don't know, like, I think that was an old tool. Like, UltiPro Care Network is like an old tool. And then they just added more. They didn't like beef it up or graduate. They just kind of added additional ones from what I can tell.
Well, and I wanted to touch on that part of it specifically, just because we'd mentioned it at the beginning. Some folks will know what it is, some won't. But what we've heard from some of our UKG certified partners is that the UCN is really a tool that only UKG has access to. So if you're looking for that third-party support, they're not going to be able to do any updates to your UCN reports. But there are other spots where they can go ahead and build reports in SQL and then run it as if it was UCN, the same way that you can do, like a transfer file or a transfer data. So I think, we don't need to spend any real big time on it, but I think it's worth knowing just because we mentioned it. It is a tool. Some of you might be using it, some of you might not be, but it is fairly narrow. And there are other ways that you can go ahead and do the same thing, but have more access in case you need to partner with other groups to, really update some of those.
And please correct me if I'm wrong, but for those that are using it for their vendor files or their benefit vendor files, if there needs to be a change or an update to it, that it's also
service request.
Contacting UKG service requests to be able to
for the carrier network.
Yeah. If you have
yes and no.
If you have other information, please ditch.
I was like, yes and no. It depends on your skill set. in the back office, there are a few things you can do, and it also depends on how you have your carrier set up.
And if you have back office. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. If you don't have back office, hey, I feel like I don't have everything, because when I went to that innovation conference, they had a whole SQL database. I was like, I don't have a SQL database. I want a SQL database. They are right. If you don't have back office, you do need to contact UKG. But to be honest, some of them you still need to. Even some of our back office files that are through that, because they're customizations or they put some sort of configuration that we weren't a part of the build and we had them build the file, we do, but there's some limitations. So I think I'm glad you brought that up. Some of these tools may or may not be available you due to your access, due to what your contract has, due to the role that is the access, or due to what you established or how you built it. So sometimes you may say, hey, these are foreign to me. Your best bet is to put a ticket in to the customer portal and ask someone, hey, I'm looking to do this. I was on this podcast. I heard, do we have the ability to do that? They may say, sure. And your access doesn't have that, or oops, no, you guys don't have that in your contract. So there are a few things that you may want to, that's just good. I'm glad you guys brought that up. I forgot you guys don't have backgrounds.
We wish we were as fancy as you. But let's be honest, we won't be.
What an odd way to kick us while we're already down.
I could let you get back there and see and then not touch anything, and that would make it even worse.
That's fine. I don't want back office tax.
Honestly, I'm not back there much anymore, and I know a lot of people love it. At my former company, we used it a lot, and I like it. There are a lot of benefits, but to be honest, the 4 passwords I've got to use to get back there, I'm tired after the first one and go to like 3.
Well, and now a lot of that functionality is switching to more web-based. So that's good.
I went back there the other day to do something that's historically been in the back office, and I couldn't. It was grayed out, but no one told me. So I was like, I logged in 3 times just to get here. So there's some stuff that they're moving to the web.
Do you, just real quickly, Veronica, since you have back office, for our listeners that maybe don't have back office and don't know what we're talking about,
sure.
It's not like the back of your building where in the back office. Can you explain what back office is?
Yes. What is it? So back office, so long in the long time ago's days, UKG did not have this very fancy web version of their application. They had this old, it's kind of like AS400, except It's not function keys. It's very much like that. It looks like an old, I love SAP, but it kind of looks similar to like an SAP or an old Oracle or PeopleSoft. So they have this very robust engine of a system that's a SQL database type of application. And they built some front ends where you can do a lot of the same stuff you do on the web in the pretty version, but it's in the back office. So it's still an application that exists. It's limited in terms of the customers. People would run payroll, hire employees, set up taxes and companies, and do all of that stuff. And that is still there for the companies that have that access. It allows, to be honest, don't go asking for it because they don't like to give it out. Just like I tried to get a SQL database and they said no to me. I was like, I want one of those. They're like, Veronica, go sit down. It's like, But the thing that I think the most important functionality that if you do have it, you do have a lot more access, but it's, be careful what you ask for, because you have the power to actually mess up more because you really got to know what you're doing. But for somebody like me, I like it because I don't have to put in as many tickets. I'm able to do some things on my own without UKG's help, but with that comes more work. Because I can, my team knows I can, so they don't put in tickets, right? And so I'm inundated. I'm just saying that's,
they just put in a little Veronica ticket.
Yeah. Having back office is the Spider-Man complex. With great power comes great responsibility. So
100%. It is great because, to their point, as we're talking about data exports and imports, there's flexibility to be able to get data out, get data in without having to. And I just want to give this example. And I know we're kind of, we've been talking to these folks for a while, but what's important is Andrew did a reorg. I did a reorg last year, and it was a huge undertaking. I know his was, and so was mine. But one of the things that I loved is that in the back office, I was able to do some stuff with people import, but you cannot import all of this structure on the web without engaging UKG and paying a cost. Because I had back office, some of the stuff I needed to do, I could go in and do it in the back office, and it fixed my structural stuff without doing the employees. Now I could have did the employees, but I'm a web import tool gal like these folks are. So I chose to do that. But this kind of saved me one extra step, engaging UKG, or some 4 pieces of data. I could do all of that via the web import tool, but just get the structure done in the back office. But for those that don't have it, don't fret. You can still import data, export data without it. These folks are doing it on a regular basis with just the tools they have on the web version. And when in doubt, they just involve UKG. And if you find a good friend, they may throw you a bone. That's all I'm going to say. Meet people. Networking is important. That's all I'm going to say. I can't say anything. Wink, wink. Just network. I can't wink. You see, I'm blinking because I can't really wink. I'm not a winker. So both my eyebrows go.
They're like,
and he's like, winking. No. Well, this has been good, folks. What do you guys think?
I love it.
I think it's a great sort of touch base on some of the options out there available for folks. Obviously, this is a podcast first and foremost. You're not seeing like all the ins and outs on how to do it, but hopefully this has given everyone like an inkling of what they can do, so they can really dive in and start doing the research that they need on what's useful for them.
And hopefully, like, as we say every episode, you can't see, like you just said, but it's the catalyst of the things to ask. So I hope you jotted down a couple keywords. We said API, it's keyword, data import, the data import tool, mass updates, reports, exports, BI is big still. And then I think the other one we said was Ulti-Pro Carrier Network. If you remember nothing, remember some of those buzzwords and go to the community and search for how to utilize a lot of these functionality, or reach out to one of us. We'd be more than happy to share our insight with you.
And speaking of buzzwords, we do have a word of the episode. Andy, you want to go ahead and let everyone know what that word is?
The magical word for this episode is API.
It's spelled exactly like
apple pie. Were you doing that?
I was. Apple pie indigo.
That's exactly what was in my head. That is so weird. I was like, apple pie igloo. No, indigo. We're becoming one, folks. We're becoming one.
If you need to know, API is Application Programming Interface, but
not apple pie
is
indigo.
A lot more fun.
No, it's apple pie indigo. You didn't know that?
We'll make it a thing.
Our word of the episode is API, spelled exactly like that. We spelled it out for you. And what that means is if you are listening to the podcast, but you are not participating in our live monthly events, we do have quizzes where our sponsors give us gift cards to give away to all of you. And part of those quizzes, one of those questions will be, what is the word of the episode? So we've given you one of those answers and a chance to win a gift card.
Subscribe, follow us on Spotify, right?
Please do.
Don't tell your friends. Just don't tell your friends about the secret word, because otherwise that decreases your chances of winning. So make sure to like, follow, and subscribe for sure.
Well, do we have anything else for our lovely listeners?
No, thanks. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
All right. This is the UKG podcast, or Chicago UKG group, logging out. Thanks all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Adios.